Welcome back, my
Balance at
lovelies.
last.
I hope you are set for today's update. Like and subscribe, for it gives me the confidence and strength to keep writing stories. The black ships reached the horizon at dawn. They did not slice the sea, they glided over it, hulls hovering a breath above glowing waters. The ocean beneath them shimmered silver, as if responding not to wind, but to will. From the palace cliffs of Nkosi, Zura stood watching. Beside her, Li Wei's presence burned steady and contained. No frantic fire. No restless dragon. Just coiled readiness. Between them, Cairo stood barefoot on the stone balcony. He was no longer the unsteady child who had once pulsed with chaotic light. His small hands rested lightly on the railing. Gold shimmered beneath his right palm. Silver beneath his left. Distinct. Harmonized. The sea responded to him. Not violently. Respectfully. They are not enemies, Cairo said quietly. His voice had deepened over the past year, still young, but clear with awareness far beyond his age. Zura knelt slightly beside him, brushing her fingers through his curls. How do you know? They are waiting. Li Wei studied the horizon carefully. For what? Cairo turned his head slightly, eyes reflecting both sun and steel. For us. The coastal defenses stood ready regardless. Lion Guard battalions lined the cliffs. Imperial dragon riders hovered high in controlled formation. Sun priests and elemental scholars stood shoulder to shoulder below. This was not fear. This was preparation. The first black ship slowed just beyond arrow range. The sea beneath it brightened. Then the water parted. Not violently. Deliberately. A column of light rose from beneath the ocean's surface, neither gold nor silver, but something older. A third frequency. Balanced. From within it, a figure emerged. Not armored. Not crowned. Unmarked, and yet powerful enough that every warrior on the cliffs felt the instinct to kneel. Zura did not. Li Wei did not. Cairo did not. The figure stepped onto the surface of the sea as though onto stone. The convergence holds, it said, voice echoing not through air but through thought. It was not the first equilibrium, but something aligned with it. We seek no dominion, it continued. We seek confirmation. Of what? Li Wei called across the distance, dragon aura rising behind him like restrained flame. That balance is chosen, not imposed. Cairo stepped forward slightly. Zura's hand hovered protectively near his shoulder. He glanced back at her briefly. She nodded once. Not releasing him. Trusting him. He lifted his hands. Gold and silver flowed outward, not as weapons. As invitation. The lights crossed the distance between shore and sea, weaving into the column where the being stood. The ocean stilled completely. Every torch behind them bent inward again. But this time, not in alarm. In alignment. The being observed the harmony carefully. No fracture. No dominance. No forced merging. Just tension held willingly. After a long moment, the column of light softened. The world will test you still, it said calmly. But you have answered the first claim. The black ships began to withdraw. No battle. No destruction. Just retreat. Not defeated. Satisfied. The sea returned to ordinary rhythm. On the cliffs, tension dissolved into stunned silence. Zura exhaled slowly. Li Wei's dragon energy receded. Cairo blinked once, then simply looked tired. Very much a child again. Zura scooped him into her arms without hesitation. He curled into her shoulder, small and warm and utterly human despite everything he carried. Li Wei stepped close, placing one hand at the small of Zura's back and the other gently over Cairo's hair. For a long moment, the three of them stood unmoving as the sun climbed higher. He leaned down and kissed her. Not urgent. Not hungry. Deep. Familiar. His lips moved against hers slowly, deliberately. Months of shared battle, shared fear, shared triumph lived in that kiss. Her fingers threaded into his hair as she leaned into him fully. He lifted her easily, carrying her toward the bed without breaking contact. She wrapped her legs around his waist instinctively, their foreheads brushing as he laid her down gently. There was no rush. They had time now. His hands traced along her sides reverently, memorizing curves he already knew. Her palms explored the strength of his shoulders, the warmth of his skin. They had once sought comfort in closeness. Tonight, they celebrated it. When their bodies joined, it was not desperate. It was anchored. Breath against breath. Heartbeat against heartbeat. The world outside continued turning, empires shifting, seas moving, destinies unfolding. But within those walls, fire and dragon met in complete trust. Afterward, they lay tangled beneath thin silk sheets, moonlight tracing quiet patterns across their skin. Zura rested her head against his chest. Li Wei's fingers drew lazy shapes along her spine. For a moment today, she whispered, "I thought I might lose you both." "You never will," he replied. She tilted her head slightly to look at him. "Do not promise what you cannot control." "I do not promise immortality," he said calmly. "I promise choice. I will always choose you." Her throat tightened slightly. She pressed a kiss to his chest. "And I you." The next morning, they woke to small feet pattering across stone. Cairo climbed onto their bed without ceremony. Zura groaned softly, half laughing. Li Wei pulled the blankets aside to make room. Cairo wedged himself between them, warm and slightly mischievous. "You are both too slow," he declared. "Oh." Zura raised a brow. "Yes. The sunrise was beautiful." Li Wei smirked faintly. "Then you should have woken us." Cairo considered this. "I tried. You were occupied." Zura burst into laughter, burying her face briefly in Li Wei's shoulder. Li Wei coughed lightly. "We were resting." Cairo nodded solemnly, though his eyes sparkled with quiet understanding far too old for his years. He leaned against both of them, small hands gripping their fingers simultaneously. Gold shimmered faintly at one side, silver at the other. Balanced. Stable. Human. They lay there longer than protocol allowed. Longer than rulers were meant to. Because sometimes, leadership required stillness. Years later, historians would record this era as the Age of Convergence. They would write of alliances once thought impossible. Of dragon banners flying beside lion standards. Of desert kings who learned restraint. Of seas that tested but did not consume. But those histories would not capture mornings like this. The warmth of three bodies tangled in sunlight. The quiet kisses exchanged before council. The way Zura's laughter softened the hardest generals. The way Li Wei's dragon curled peacefully when his son slept nearby. Balance was not a throne. It was a practice. And they practiced it daily. Together. On the highest balcony of Nkosi, as dusk painted the sky in gold and silver hues intertwined, Zura stood with Li Wei at her side and Cairo between them. The wind moved freely again. No heaviness. No omen. Just possibility. Cairo looked up at them both. "What happens next?" he asked. Zura glanced at Li Wei. Li Wei glanced at her. They smiled. "Whatever we choose," they answered together. And for the first time in generations, the world did not tremble at what that meant. It breathed. That brings us to the end of our story. I have more planned for us that will captivate your fantastical hearts. Let's keep watching. Thank you for listening, like, and subscribe for more fantasy and mystical stories.